Me again. You know what? This is kind of becoming my lifeline because I get to come out to the car and be alone and get to, this is my self time. You may get tired of seeing me doing a live because this is really fun. And I have a great follow-up question from yesterday. So we're just going to go on a drive and talk about it. The question was, so when do you need to use the oil CBD, like tinctures under your tongue, versus when do you use what I was talking about yesterday, the reduced cream? Excellent question. CBD, I was using the topical cream and I was taking the drops under my tongue, getting, did that blink out? I think it changed. Anyway, okay, so I'm not sure what we missed here, but the difference between the reduced cream and the oil is that the reduced cream is more for an acute injury. So if you sprained your ankle, if you needed something immediately, the cream, the CBD cream, works in a very specific spot very acutely. So example, when I first started using CBD, I was using the topical on my incision and my adhesions and stuff where I was having problems, and I was taking the drops. And after about 5 or 6 days, I wasn't needing I was forgetting to use the cream because I wasn't in pain anymore. So that cream kind of acted as a bridge until the drops kicked into gear. The more I learn about CBD, a quality CBD, the more I think that everyone should be taking CBD, and that is not being salesy. It's almost like, I would call it a vitamin. The way our bodies are, we naturally produce CBD in our body. And for whatever reason, we are deficient. I wish I could, I'm driving and I don't have the quote, but one of my favorite quotes talks about how all disease they are discovering, now that we know about this huge endocannabinoid system, now that we've discovered it, all disease they're discovering is related to a deficient endocannabinoid system. So it makes sense that if we can modulate that system, then we can help prevent disease in our body. So I always say, I don't know why, but I'm imagining little receptors that are all wilted and sad, and only a little bit of CBD that we naturally make is getting in there. And like I said, I'm not sure why we're not making CBD like we should, whether it be toxins, whether it be free radicals, something about our food, who knows why. I haven't done that research. But we're not producing enough, which is leading to disease. So if you take the drops every day and you don't have a single problem in your body, I still think you should be taking it, because these little wilted receptors, there's only so many receptors that will receive CBD. They will start receiving that CBD and they will open up. And so you go from not accepting very much CBD because they're closed and wilted to wide open and accepting CBD. And that CBD is providing what we call homeostasis in our body. So if you have an imbalance of hormones, if you have an imbalance of serotonin, inflammation, anything that's off, CBD comes in, opens up those receptors, fills them up, and that is what causes healing to take place. So whenever I started, that's why there's a one-time, in my opinion, jump in your dose. Because when I started taking CBD, I was taking 500 full spectrum. It was amazing. I noticed instantly that night I had great sleep, even though I didn't think I had a sleep issue. But then about 4 or 5 weeks in, I noticed that I wasn't, as falling asleep as easily, or there were breakthrough symptoms, and that's when I jumped up to 750. And that's not because you get a buildup. That's because all of a sudden these receptors are wide open, and all of a sudden you can accept more CBD into your receptors. And that's kind of a one-time change there. So once you hit that 5-week mark, you're kind of receiving the maximum amount of CBD that you can get. And that's when, at my 5 weeks, is when all of a sudden I realized my joints weren't hurting and other things kept healing in my body that I didn't even complain about. I didn't even go to the doctor for, because they were small, but they changed. So the idea of taking the oil, as I ramble on, is it's a long-term use like a vitamin. You want to take it every day to keep those receptors full of CBD, to keep providing that homeostasis in your body, to keep disease and inflammation down. And by keeping that inflammation down, because we also know that the root of most disease is inflammation. So if we can prevent inflammation from even occurring by taking our CBD daily, we're going to possibly prevent the onset of more serious disease. Does that make sense? Another quote that I love is that this is a doctor that's been researching cannabis for many years, like I think it was like since the 80s, but he said that the invention and the use, not the invention, the use of cannabis is going to save more lives than the invention of the sterile surgical procedure, which just blows my mind, having had 13 abdominal surgeries because of an inflammatory bowel disease, that if I had known about CBD 25 years ago when I was first diagnosed with Crohn's, I don't need to use that term, but when I was first diagnosed with an inflammatory bowel disease, maybe I could have prevented those surgeries, because my surgeries were because my stomach swelled shut, and then that inflammation was there for so long it turned into scar tissue, and then there was no way that we could heal scar tissue once it's like a callus. So then they had to cut that out. So it's pretty amazing. It's an amazing concept. But the point being, I know that people are writing on there, and I'm really sorry, I'm driving and it's probably very dangerous for me reading the comments, but that's why you need to take CBD every day. So it's not, when you take the drops, it's not just I'm going to take the drops for about a week and then I'll be fine. Drops are for a long-term use, like a vitamin, like you take your vitamins every day, whereas the reduced cream or the soothe cream is a CBD cream, and that is, while you can use it long-term, that's a little bit more for an acute injury. So that's the difference of when you decide. Honestly, I think that most people, when they are interested in CBD, they typically have an injury and they want to start, and I recommend that people start with the drops and the reduced cream, because people want immediate responses. Because there are people that won't stick with the drops long enough to notice a difference. They think, I've been using them for a week or two and it's not working. But that's the trickiest part, is finding your proper dose. Once you find your proper dose, it is like the sweet spot, and all of a sudden everything in your body starts healing. And that's what's so important, is sticking with it long enough to provide that healing, and then staying consistently on the drops. I've been taking the drops from Green Compass now for a year in April, and it's just amazing how much better my body feels. I'm not creaky, my joints don't hurt, my muscle recovery after I play tennis isn't bad. You know, I thought I was like age 60 about a year ago, and now it's amazing the difference. So there's the difference between why you would use the cream and or the drops, or both at the same time. I hope that that gives you an answer, and I hope you have a great day. Ask any questions that you want, and thank you for letting me get out of my house.